Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel. It is Wednesday, the 23rd, 20th, 21st, 22nd. I'm rushing the month away. I apologize. Wednesday, the 22nd of March. And on Monday, I talked about Arizona, I believe it was, where they have a tip line for reporting teachers for teaching the wrong things, and that slippery slope that I compared to Germany, Nazi Germany, and the Diary of Anne Frank. Well, today I'd like to pick up on that again a little bit, and I'll talk a little bit more tongue in cheek about something when I was a kid I always wanted to do, and I did it twice. And something that I always thought when I was an adult I'd want to do again, but now I never will. And that is visit the state of Florida. When I was a kid, I was 8 years old. We went to Florida. We went to Disney World. It was amazing. Best holiday ever. When I was 17, I had a younger sister who was 8, and my parents decided since she wasn't around the first time we went, we would go again. Took a motor home, drove down through the states, had a great time, spent some time at Disney World, you know, Busch Gardens, all that stuff. It was amazing. People were incredible. Felt very welcome. I always thought that when I got older, I someday want to go back, especially now that they've got, I went to Epcot when I was there the second time, but they have all these other things now, and Star Wars and Harry Potter and all those things that would be interest to my husband and I. And now I have no desire whatsoever to go anywhere near the state of Florida because I heard probably about a month ago, and I'm sure I'm misquoting this, but the general essence, you'll know what I mean. I heard the governor state that Florida is where woke goes to die. Okay, like, I mean, okay, so Florida is a place where intelligence, paying attention to other people, being aware of how we treat people, um, equity when it comes to skin color, gender identity, all of these things that we recognize, where we essentially recognize the dignity of every human being, because essentially that's really what to be woke is. It's to be aware, to be moving toward civil rights. It's to be moving toward helping people to be educated and be able to make good decisions, to taking care of people, to wanting them to be able to live the best life they can. And I used to think that's what Florida was, where people worked hard, especially Canadians worked hard all their lives, and they'd be snowbirds. They'd fly down to Florida and live the best life they could, where it was warmer and arthritic joints weren't so bad. But now we're being told that Florida wants to be redneck. Florida wants to be a place where people are ignorant and where people are taught, well, they're not taught because their books are banned, and they're being told that there are certain things they're not allowed to talk about, things that actually help to make sure we don't make the mistakes generations before us have made, like not being able to talk about white supremacy and white privilege and slavery issues and generational trauma, all these things that make the unwoke people uncomfortable. Why would I want to go and spend my hard earned money in a state that actually encourages people to be ignorant? In a state that encourages people to be classist, sexist, racist? In a state that says, unless the privileged class, meaning the white rich people, have deemed it to be appropriate to their fine senses and their sensitivities, then it can't be taught. I don't understand that. How do you have people who grow up to make good decisions that benefit the whole of humanity, the whole of a community, if you can't teach them not to repeat the mistakes of the past? It dumbfounds me. The idea that a governor can dictate and figure out a way to put into place legislation that actually enshrines it in law, like people can't talk about their parents if their parents both happen to be of the same gender. God help that child if that child needs to have a parent-teacher interview, or if that child has, issues around an illness in the family or something. How is that child supposed to? I can't get help. I'm not allowed to talk about my family. I have two dads or I have two moms. It absolutely dumbfounds me. Why would we go? Why would we go to a place like that? And then on top of that, this week we've been hearing about Miami Beach. And I listened to the mayor say, they're perfectly okay if March break doesn't happen in Miami Beach because they don't advertise it, they don't ask for it. It just happens. And when I reported this, there had been two people killed in two separate incidents because of the wildness of what's happening in Miami Beach. And they were putting in curfews, and they couldn't sell alcohol after 6 o'clock at night. And you know what? That hurts the businesses. That hurts the businesses, the hotels and the restaurants and the bars where people would have normally gone, that to use those businesses, because there's a curfew, because people are wild and crazy. The irony of that the young people who are arguably not making great decisions, but the young people who tend to be the trans people, the gay people, the lesbians, those people who are probably really ridiculously not in agreement with the way that the particular governmental attitude is going, are the very people who are going to spend all their money going down for March break for their spring break to spend in Florida, Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, all those places. Um, it just dumbfounds me that you'll take their money until something bad happens. And I actually do agree with the curfew and stuff like that. I think it's awful that that has to happen. But DeSantis and all those folks are totally okay with the tourism that Florida brings, but they're not okay with the people who live in Florida and live their whole lives learning and becoming informed adults. It blows my mind. I recently heard the other day, last week, that Jodi Picoult, who has like 30 or more bestseller books, one of which is called The Storyteller, had it removed from the school. Her book was removed from school libraries because it talks about the Holocaust. I've read that book. It is a powerful, incredibly well written book that addresses some really difficult truth and presents it in such a way that, because it's fiction, that you're not threatened and you're able to get into the story, and it makes you think critically. It's not as cut and dried or black and white as some people would have you think. And yet it makes you think about the characters. It makes you think about what happened, what could happen. How are we to respond today? And her book was taken off the shelves because it had to do with the Holocaust. What is happening to our world? What's happening in North America when we start talking about things like it's not okay to talk about the Holocaust? It's when we stop talking about it that people like the Proud Boys and all those people who say it never happened, they get to talk about that. And soon people will be thinking, well, maybe it never really did happen. And guess what'll happen when that happens? Soon it won't just be immigrants that the governor of Florida is shipping up to Martha's Bay or Martha's Vineyard. It will be immigrants being shipped off to places or locked in cages where they won't see their families again, where they may never be connected with their families again. There may be people who just disappear. It doesn't take a lot once we head down that slippery slope. Enough is enough. I know that I will not be choosing to go to Florida and spend my money or my time there in the near future. What would be the point? I now have to rethink how I think about my own life, which is not a bad thing. But I have to start thinking about, if I won't buy something from this store because they use slave labor, and I won't buy this because it's not fair trade, then why would I go someplace like Florida, where pretty soon fair living won't even be a thing? Where woke goes to die. You know what? I'm totally okay with spending my money in a place where woke goes to wake up others. Have a great day, everybody. God bless, and I will see you again tomorrow.